Looking out across the DMZ, it is stunning how little has changed in the north, and yet how much South Korea has continued to grow and prosper.
The U.S. announces new tougher sanctions on North Korea. We'll have the latest on Secretaries Gates and Clinton's visit to the peninsula. America's top officer is also in Korea meeting with troops. What he's saying about dwell time for soldiers and tour normalization. Iraq drawdown. Some 75% of U.S. bases have now been transferred back to Iraqis. We'll update you on the progress. Plus, the heat is on. Triple-digit temps have once again gripped Europe and beyond. How troops are trying to beat the heat. Next on Around the Services.
Now, proudly serving those who serve. This is Around the Services.
Welcome, I'm Staff Sergeant Brian Buckwalter. Solidarity and security continue to be key themes in the visit of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Defense Secretary Robert Gates to South Korea. Along the way, they are renewing the U.S. pledge to work to maintain peace on the peninsula. That pledge comes with a message to North Korea of ongoing cooperation between the U.S. and South Korea for combined defense and deterrence.
Secretary of State Clinton and Defense Secretary Gates stood together Wednesday at an observation post along the Demilitarized Zone dividing North and South Korea. They also met with U.S. forces stationed along the DMZ, the heavily fortified border that separates the communist North from the South. And here Secretaries Clinton and Gates underscored America's continued solidarity with South Korea.
We continue to send a message to the North. There is another way. There is a way that can benefit the people of the North. But until they change direction, the United States stands firmly on behalf of the people and government of the Republic of Korea.
So we're here today not just to show our appreciation for the vital work that U.S., Republic of Korea, and other forces do in maintaining the armistice, but also to send a strong signal to the North, to the region and to the world, that our commitment to South Korea's security is steadfast. In fact, our military alliance has never been stronger and should deter any potential aggressor.
The two cabinet secretaries are in South Korea for a 2+2 meeting with their counterparts, the South Korean foreign minister and defense minister. Officials say those talks are focusing on security efforts on the peninsula. That effort was underscored by Secretary Clinton's announcement of new sanctions aimed at North Korea's nuclear weapons program.
We will implement new country-specific sanctions aimed at North Korea's sale and procurement of arms and related materiel, and the procurement of luxury goods and other illicit activities.
Those 2+2 talks between the two nations come as U.S. forces prepare for joint military exercises with South Korea, set to begin on July 25th. Staff Sergeant E.L. Craig, Pentagon Channel News.
And as you see there, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is also on the peninsula. Admiral Mike Mullen visited troops at Camp Red Cloud Wednesday, where he answered questions at a town hall. Soldiers with the 2nd Infantry Division asked him about budget concerns, military suicides, and tour normalization. The chairman said with the responsible drawdown underway in Iraq, troops could expect to spend more time at home.
What I would hope we'd be able to do is over the next couple of years is get to a point where we get twice as much time at home as we have deployed. Most of you haven't seen that, and I understand that, but we need that. The chief is very focused on that. We need it in all the services.
Admiral Mullen said the number of U.S. service members in Iraq will drop by 50,000 by the end of next month, relieving the stress on the force. We're headed downrange in just a couple minutes, but first, let's go to the Pentagon Channel newsroom for the latest headlines.
I'm Staff Sergeant Allie Rose. In the news, Defense Secretary Robert Gates says input from service members on possibly repealing Don't Ask, Don't Tell is vital. 400,000 active duty and reserve service members were asked to complete a survey as part of a Defense Department review. To date, only 33,000 have complied. The Senate passed a bill to change the law, and Secretary Gates is urging service members to take part in that survey before any changes would take place. Members of Illinois Army National Guard went to Camp Shelby, Mississippi to train on the Shadow 200 Tactical Unmanned Aerial Vehicle, or UAV. The UAVs stand 2 feet high with a wingspan of nearly 14 feet. They weigh about 400 pounds and are catapulted into flight at about 70 miles per hour. They will be used during natural disasters like tornadoes or floods instead of sending a helicopter out. The United States Department of Veterans Affairs is celebrating its 80th anniversary. The department employs nearly 280,000 people at its medical clinics, facilities, and benefit offices. The VA was formed on July 21, 1930, and had only 54 hospitals. Now it boasts 171 medical centers, more than 350 outpatient, community, and outreach clinics, and 126 nursing home care units. And for the latest military news, signature programming, and more, head to PentagonChannel.mil. I'm Staff Sergeant Allie Rose with your Pentagon Channel News Update.
The President has made his pick for the next Commandant of the Marine Corps to replace General James Conway. As Lance Corporal Nicholas Neighbors reports, if confirmed by the Senate, the new Commandant would mark a first for the Corps.
President Barack Obama has nominated General James Amos as the 35th Commandant of the Marine Corps. Amos is the current Assistant Commandant and was recommended for the new position by Secretary of the Navy Ray Mabus and Defense Secretary Robert Gates. Congress approves the nomination. Amos will be the first career aviator to lead the Corps and the first Commandant in several decades to replace his immediate boss. Amos has commanded at numerous levels throughout the Marine Corps, but his most notable position was with the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom from 2002 through 2004. He'll be ushered in as Commandant at a time when the Marine Corps tries to refocus its efforts as an amphibious force in readiness after fighting for 8 years in a landlocked region. The current Commandant, General James Conway, is scheduled to retire in September. From Washington, I'm Lance Corporal Nicholas Neighbors.
Coming up ahead on Around the Surfaces, heat wave. It's a summer sizzler in Germany. See how the military community there is coping. But first, securing the scene. Provincial reconstruction teams branch out to help the Afghan government take the lead. We go downrange next with a 1 PRT on patrol. NATO provincial reconstruction teams work to create a stable environment in Afghanistan to help enable Afghan-led development and governance. Marine Corporal A.J. Lugo takes us to Zabul Province, where one team was training to keep the area secure.
Captain Max Pappas, the lead for Team Shagardahn, an element of the Zabul Provincial Reconstruction Team in Afghanistan, watched as his soldiers and airmen laid down rounds on a makeshift range in the Shajoy area of the province.
Just test firing weapons, and we're also making sure we get some final training on stuff like hand grenades.
The PRT, the mission of which is to aid Afghans in developing their country, relies on these skills to counter an insurgency that threatens to undermine Afghan-led progress. Today, Captain Pappas made sure each of his team members is capable with every weapon available to them to work toward the long-term security of the Afghan people. Corporal A.J. Lugo, Zabul Province, Afghanistan.
While it's very difficult to say some insurgent forces in Iraq are connected to the Iranian government, many of them live, receive funding, and train in Iran. That's according to General Ray Odierno, U.S. Forces Iraq Commanding General. He briefed reporters Wednesday at the Pentagon on what he called a possible insurgent connection to Iran.
We've had some significant threat warnings from them about attacks on U.S. forces for varying reasons. I think they also, by the way, have conducted attacks against Iraqi security forces as well. And this is to create, I believe, some type of instability and lack of confidence in the government of Iraq.
General Odierno also said insurgents are targeting the sons of Iraq who work closely with the Iraqi government to preserve peace. He said it's important the United States pay extra attention to the program to make sure sons of Iraq succeed. U.S. forces have returned more than 75% of the bases they controlled to the government or Iraq. Army Sergeant Nandis Powell has more on the change.
Iraqi base turnover began in January 2008, and the turnovers continue to take place at a steady rate. The number of bases under U.S. control has dropped from a high of 505 to 121 as of July 15. Brigadier General Kendall Cox, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Transatlantic Division Commander, leads the team in Iraq responsible for base turnovers and closures. He explained as the troop level drops to 50,000 by August 31st, the number of bases under U.S. control will also drop.
We're drawing down to 94, of which 60 bases will be defined as partnered. So it'll be U.S. and Iraqi security forces joined together on those bases.
Preparing a base for closure can take only a few months to more than a year. The base closure process for the largest and last bases to turn over has already begun.
We actually started a closure process for all of our large bases on 1 July. It's going to be a very lengthy process, so we've started on all the bases now.
The government of Iraq created the Receivership Secretariat in May 2009 in order to aid U.S. forces with the process of base turnovers.
That entity became the sole responsibility for the receipt of all the property that's returned back. So as we move forward in the processes, it's a clear understanding of who's going to sign for the property, who's then going to move on to the base and then be responsible for the real estate and property after that.
Some of the turnovers are more significant than others. Among those considered more significant was Q West.
It was the largest return so far, significant number of facilities and buildings. Also Takadam Air Base out in Al Anbar was another large significant one. And then of late we've returned the two internment facilities, one at Camp Taji and then Cropper, which provided for the government of Iraq a very significant capability to maintain and control detainees that have been under U.S. control that have now been turned over to the government of Iraq.
Other facilities turned over include Convoy Support Center Scania, a base which until mid-July this year had been under U.S. control since the start of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and the Abu Ghraib warehouse, which has 9,000 square feet of storage space and has issued more than $17 billion in equipment to the Iraqi security forces. The Basra Airport, Phoenix Base, and the former U.S. Embassy Annex are also among facilities returned. The base returns reflect the partnership of U.S. and Iraqi forces.
We would not be able to continue moving forward with the base closure process if it wasn't a partnership, an absolute partnership between the U.S. forces and the government of Iraq. Both nations have a vested interest in this because in the end, the base transfer process will generate an enduring strategic partnership, but more importantly, enhance their ability to increase their security and stability in their nation.
According to the current security agreement, all of the bases in Iraq, including the 9 enduring bases, will return to the government of Iraq by December 2011. From Forward Operating Base Prosperity, I'm Army Sergeant Nandis Powell.
That's a look at what's happening downrange. Download or watch these stories anytime on demand at pentagonchannel.mil. Representatives from 70 states gathered in the Afghan capital Tuesday to take part in the Kabul Conference. Afghan President Hamid Karzai called for all security to be under Afghan control by 2014. NATO TV's Mel Preen has this wrap-up.
There was a magic number being repeatedly muttered at the Kabul Conference today, the year 2014. That's the year by which President Karzai wants to be in full control of his country. The timeline's not new, but today provided an opportunity for the Afghan leader to remind people.
Some months ago, I committed to having the ability by 2014 to reach a level of strength and ability and capacity within our forces to provide for our own security, for the population, for the country, for the borders. So this is a commitment that we have made to the Afghan people and to our international partners, and we hope accordingly that the international community will help Afghanistan reach that objective.
Well, if that foreign support was measured in famous faces, they were in abundance here today at the conference. One in particular kept the president waiting.
Sorry, I'm late.
The delegates agreed to work towards a timetable where Afghan forces would take responsibility for security in some areas by the end of the year, with an aim to have full control within 4. Many journalists here today were questioning whether Afghan security forces will be capable.
I feel confident that the Afghan security forces will be ready. I would also stress that we will stay committed to Afghanistan beyond the date when our combat mission ends, and that's a very clear message to the Afghan people as well as to the region that we will stay committed, they will not be left behind.
President Karzai took the opportunity to take a break from the conference and be mobbed by the media, giving US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton a taste of Afghan industry. Some of these businesses have received support from foreign donors, which was another topic which came up today. President Karzai wants donor money to be aligned behind what the government chooses should be a priority. It was agreed that 50% of foreign aid should now be channeled through the government, up from 20%.
There are dozens of nations here today showing their support for a united way forward for Afghanistan. But there's also a sobering acceptance that despite the gains that have been made in governance in certain areas, security is going to worsen before it gets better.
I think the security situation will further deteriorate before it improves. That is the analysis of all the military experts. But you see, we have captured the enemy heartland, and they are fighting back relentlessly. The surge in both the Afghan and international forces have enabled us to operate in an area which we have never been there before. That is by itself one of the reasons for the rise in the violence.
Violence is on the increase, but talking to some of these Afghan exhibitors, it's not something they're worried about yet.
Security and governance are two of the key mission strategies of American forces serving in Afghanistan. Staff Sergeant Lance Heinzelman introduces us to some soldiers who make those strategies part of their daily mission.
Not long ago, the village of Drawdown in Afghanistan's Kunar province was under Taliban control. Now, soldiers from the 101st Airborne Division, based out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, are here, making sure the area stays secure. They're also here to keep the area safe, so Afghan National Police can build a police station and outpost near the village, which will help the locals return.
Recently, we've seen a lot of civilians moving out of the village, basically because of the lack of security, and obviously they don't want to be living in the middle of a battlefield. But also they've said once security gets better, they would be moving back. So that's what we're trying to do right now, get a lasting security presence so it'll be a little more peaceful in the village.
Their first order of business is speaking with the local police and border patrol to find out what's been happening in the area.
We can get those set up tonight.
The infantrymen then set up security in and around the village.
We have one platoon here for 24 hours at a time and partnered with A&P and ABP. They're talking about building an OP up on this hill back here and possibly a police station actually in the village. And really until they get the police station or OP built, there's going to be coalition forces and A&P postured here with our trucks securing the village till that buildings are constructed and we have a lasting ANSF presence here.
Fortunately for this team, many of the Taliban have fled, except for a few locals and their animals, The town is mostly quiet, and a day after they rolled into Dardam, these soldiers are able to head back to home station to wait for their next mission. Air Force Staff Sergeant Lance Heinzelman. Dardam Village, Kunar, Afghanistan.
Coming up next on Around the Services, if you've been dealing with the 3 H's this summer, hazy, hot, and humid weather, you're not alone. We'll take you to Germany when we return. Finally, Germany has gone through a few heat waves this month with temperatures reaching nearly 104 degrees. To give you some perspective, the average high for July in Kaiserslautern is about 73. Tech Sergeant Colleen Jones talked with a few residents about this unusual weather pattern.
Okay, thank you.
Grazie.
Grazie.
Thanks.
A string of hot days in Germany has people looking for ways to stay cool.
We have a 3-story house and we have like 10 fans going on upstairs because the main floor is upstairs and it's just really hot. So
Georgia native Abby Larson is used to high temperatures, but didn't expect to experience them in Germany.
When I moved here, they said it was either going to be rain or snow. They didn't say anything about heat.
Being from Texas, a native from Texas, I enjoy the heat. It lets us get out and do more and enjoy the outdoors.
Sergeant Major Eduardo Martinez says he'll actually miss the warm weather once it passes.
I hope it stays around for at least till October. Our next APFT is coming up, boy.
While most people enjoy a little sun, many people in Germany are ready for a break.
We hope it just at least gets down to the 70s or something. I mean, some sun is nice, so we can go to the pool, but you know, not as hot. The 90 degrees has got to stop.
From Kaiserslautern, Germany, I'm Air Force Sergeant Colleen Jones.
And here in the United States, according to the National Climatic Data Center, June was the hottest on record for much of the eastern seaboard. In the lower 48 states, only Washington and Oregon were cooler than normal. June also saw the second most tornadoes of any June on record, with a whopping 387 on the books. It also proved to be wetter than normal in some spots. And we're tracking some tropical storm activity in the Caribbean Sea. According to the National Hurricane Center, this system has a 60% chance of forming into a tropical cyclone within the next 48 hours. For now, heavy rain and gusty winds are bearing over the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. We leave you today in Seoul, Korea, where Secretaries Gates and Clinton commemorated the 60th anniversary of the start of the Korean War before meeting with their counterparts. I'm Staff Sergeant Brian Buckwalter for everyone here at the Pentagon Channel. Thanks for watching.
you have video yet, BAY? Okay. How about Channel 7 in Wausau? Okay. That's got to be on your end, guys. We'll be happy to take a question from you. It's gonna be recorded and available on the website. So if you'd like to take a question or ask a question now, we'll take you. And in the meantime, I hope your technicians can get the picture for you. Do you want to take a question, BAY? BAY, do you want a question? Okay, I believe that's on your end because the other 4 people on the call all have video. But you're welcome to ask a question, and we'll hope your technician can get you the video. Okay, you want to pass on this question? We'll go to Channel 7. Channel 7, do you have a question? Just have your technician, I guess, look at the technical information that was provided by Divins when they called you. If you want to ask a question now, we'll take one, but otherwise we'll go back to the folks who have video. While they're working that out, let me go to Fox 11 for another question. Fox 11?
Well, I will tell you that most soldiers have very good internet connection, both in morale welfare kiosks where they can contact home on their computer. We also have what we call the NIPRNet, which is a unclassified network that soldiers can go on on Army Knowledge Online, and they can do instant messaging. They can email back and forth to members from home. They also have availability of a lot of phone networks and the ability to call home that way. So soldiers that need to contact home have a lot of assets at their fingertips to be able to do that. I personally talk to my family every day, and I can email them anytime I want. We continue to get packages every day from home. Many organizations, too numerous to mention, have been providing packages with all kinds of goodies, everything from books and books on tape to snacks and food and things for people's living quarters. And I think the outpouring of support is unbelievable from this end, and at times even overwhelming. So thank you at home for that.
You could send a little rain, though.
KBT Lacrosse. Any change in what we're doing based on the drawdown plan and the troop reduction that will occur between now and 2011?
The question that I heard was any changes in the with the reduction of troops in the drawdown plan to our mission. And the answer to that is not that I've seen. We continue to do our jobs here in the international zone, and the soldiers of the brigade are also doing their jobs in the same manner. I will tell you that in the detention operations, a few of our soldiers have moved from Camp Buka to Camp Taji as the prison population has migrated to Camp Taji, and in the future, the Iraqis, I believe, will take over Camp Taji. Again, that's not under my command, so I'm only telling you that as my understanding of it. But the rest of our missions are going without a hiccup and continue as normal. Over.
Wisconsin Radio Network.
I will tell you that the Iraqi forces that we have worked with are very well trained. I think they're very professional. I would say that they mirror the U.S. forces, and they probably should because we have trained them and we've trained them well. And we continue to teach, coach, and advise them in their mission. However, they are taking the lead role in most of the combat operations. In fact, all of the combat operations in the cities. And here in the international zone, they have taken the lead on all of our security, but we still provide teachers, coaches, mentors, and help them work through issues and help them synchronize challenges that they have on a daily basis.
Bob, was that a follow-up? Okay, XOW.
I didn't catch the last part of the question.
Could you repeat the question? Command Sergeant Major Hansen will take it.
Yes, I think we've seen major changes. I was here back in 2005, and quite a few of the soldiers that are with us have deployed before, and things are much quieter now, much more peaceful. Obviously, the Iraqis are taking the front seat in all the operations, so it's quite different. We're dealing now with an Iraqi army that's well-trained and competent, and I think they're stepping forward and taking charge, and we like to see that. So it's a different atmosphere, much less violent than it was in the past, and you see a lot of progress going forward. And I think there's an attitude in the Iraqi people that things have gotten much better, and soon they're going to be in control of their own country again.
Okay, BAY, do you have video yet? Okay, go for it, BAY.
I would say the first part of the deployment has been very good. As in any job, when you first take over, it's very busy. And our soldiers had to learn their jobs and fill in and figure out contacts and who they deal with and what they do. But it has gone extremely well. I am extremely proud of the job our soldiers are doing, and you should be also. But I believe it is going better than I expected, and that's a very good sign.
BAY, do you have another question because we missed you earlier?
Well, we anticipate more of the same, but we also anticipate that as we turn more and more things over to the Iraqis and we continue to work with them to take larger responsibilities within the security of this country, that we will work more with the government, closer with them as we move forward. But I would tell you, for the normal soldier, the second half of his deployment is probably to prepare to turn his job over to the next guy. And so, in fact, the last 60 days of the deployment are focused mainly on that, to put things in place, make sure that things are written down, and he can do a proper turnover to carry on the great work that has been started by our soldiers.
SAW, do you have video? Do you want to throw a question out even without video?
Well, something that I think you definitely did take to the American public is the fact that Iraqis really do appreciate what our soldiers are doing. They do appreciate the United States and what we are giving them back. They are excited. On June 30th, when we turned the cities back over to the Iraqi security forces and to the people, they were out in the streets. They were exuberant. There was fireworks and celebrations everywhere in this country. And as you can imagine, they are very excited. There's a deep sense of patriotic duty and within these people, and it is impressive. And I think those people in Iraq are so appreciative. The common everyday person and citizen in Iraq is so appreciative of what the United States has done to help them get their country back for security and the freedom of their people.
We have time for one more question because we need to do a turnaround to the next session, so I'll go back to Wausau for Channel 7 if you have another one.
He doesn't have any downtime.
I will tell you that the soldiers, there's a lot of MWR facilities. There are great gyms where they can work out. There are movies at Camp Prosperity here, where the 32nd Brigade headquarters is. We put together a theater, and we show movies about 3 nights a week, one movie each night. And the soldiers have kept themselves busy. We had a volleyball tournament. They had a basketball tournament. And so the soldiers come up with things to do in their downtime, which helps them interact with each other. It helps relieve stress. And I think they are very resourceful and have plenty of opportunity to get those kind of things.
Well, thank you very much. We apologize for any technical difficulties you had. We've not done one of these before. You're welcome to keep taking the downlink. We've got 2 more half hours following, and you can obviously use any of that material. We're going to ask you to get off the phone now so we can ring up the next 6 customers. Thanks for taking part in our news conference from Baghdad.
Yeah, you get an echo back in the early, like, I think somebody's cutting that.
Yeah, she's cutting it.
She's cutting it, but like the first little bit of my question, I get feedback about a second later after I talk.
It's kind of the cost of doing business.
I kind of got used to it in a little bit, but the first couple of questions were very hard to.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I've just been pulling the damn thing out of the socket.
I saw you doing that, yeah. It's sort of the cost of doing business with satellite transmissions. It takes a long time to get the signal up 22,000 miles, down 22,000 miles, up 22, down 22. That's the path that the signal takes.
The one person was really hard to hear, and
Yeah.
she had very complex questions that tied in, and I got about half of it, but
I think you answered them.
Okay.
Do you mind if I hear it
that's
better
very
to give it back to you? All right.
No, that'd be fine.
Okay.
The problem with if you're hearing yourself, it's a problem back in the United States. We're
Right.
trying to deal with that, but she's actually riding the level
Okay. She's doing her best she can. Yeah, no, that's good, because I noticed it cuts out, it stops for a little bit, and then once the question's in, and then it kicks back up, so.
We're going to call David to tell them that we're getting that.
Yeah.
It's common, but
I just pulled my plug out here.
Yeah.
And I start
What people who do this all the time they get used to it, and they just learn to ignore it. What they're doing now is calling the next 6.
And do keep in mind that they could still be rolling.
Roger.
Still be rolling.
Yeah.
Okay. That works.
Okay, so what's your language?
So we can't swear.
No. What they're doing now is dialing up the next 6 customers, so we'll probably have this same 5 minutes of hooking up time to deal with. I'm glad we got video finally for Channel 2, but 7 never did get it, and it was on their end.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Well, they can get
WKB.
No, TMJ.
Is that TMJ Milwaukee? I hear you. Okay, I've got TMJ. Do we have anybody else on? GBA is on NBC 26. Okay, do we have AOW Wausau? Who do we have on from TMJ? Diane? Yep, I got you, Diane. And from NBC 26? Sam? Okay. Do we have AOW yet? Do we have HBY? Wisconsin Radio? Wisconsin Public Radio? Okay, stand by TMJ and NBC 26 as we put a few more people on the line. Hello, Mike. Gotcha. Mike, were you able to contact Channel 12 in Milwaukee, or did they contact you? Okay. Okay, that's their loss. You're on. Glad to have you, Mike. Do we have Jeff on from New Richmond? How about Gil Halstead? Do we have AOW 9 Wausau? Okay, we have 3 on, and we're still waiting for 3. Stand by, please, TMJ, NBC 26, and HBY. WAOW on? Okay, you're very faint. So when I call on you for a question, you're up first. Please speak up. New Richmond Radio. Jeff? Okay, Jeff is on. And we're just waiting for Gil Halstead. Hi, Gil. Okay, we have everybody. I'm going to jump into the picture. Do the TV stations have pictures? I'd like to ask you all to turn off speakerphones if you have them on. And if you have anything else that's feeding audio back our way, if you could turn that down. It's very hard to hear you with 6 open mics back in Wisconsin. Hi, Tim Donovan here from Baghdad. I'm with Colonel Steve Bensend, the commander of the 32nd Brigade, and Command Sgt. Major Ed Hansen, our Brigade Command Sergeant Major. We're going to run this for about the next 22 minutes or so as a traditional news conference. I'm going to call on news organizations in the order that you signed up. So the order will be Channel 9 in Wausau, TMJ 4, NBC 26, HBY Appleton, radio in New Richmond, and Wisconsin Public Radio. When I call on you, you're entitled to ask a question, and if you have a related follow-up, and then we'll go one by one through as many times as we can. Do all of the 3 TV stations on have video? Anybody not have video? Okay, we assume you all have video. So I'm going to step out of the way and invite Channel 9 in Wausau to ask the first question.
Could you repeat that? Yeah, just very faintly. Please repeat your question. I will tell you that I don't work directly with the 91st Sappers, However, I will tell you that IEDs are at a low since, from my recollection, and they are continuing to be at a very low rate. We are very optimistic that the IEDs will be kept at a minimum, and so I would tell you that here in Iraq, IEDs are at a low rate compared to what they've ever been in previous history.
TMJ4, please, a question.
Say the last part again, please.
What do they do on a day-to-day basis? What do the units do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it's not much different than a soldier does every day, no matter where they are. We focus on a lot of things. Obviously, the first thing is to accomplish the mission. Each of our companies have different mission sets, whether it's detainee operations or security, or here in the IZ, a matter of turning over the IZ back to the Iraqis. We do a lot of physical training. Our soldiers are still expected to pass their annual physical fitness test. They need to maintain weight. We expect our soldiers to continue to hone their skills, whether it's weapons qualification or the whatever, plus doing their job and having time to get a little bit of sleep in now and then.
Okay, a question from NBC 26, please.
The reaction on July being the deadliest month for U.S. troops?
Afghanistan.
One of the deadliest months. I will tell you that the experience from our soldiers is that it is not the deadliest month here in Iraq. It may have been a little bit higher in other parts, but from our perspective, when you look at how things are going security-wise, we expected a slight spike when the Iraqis took over the cities. However, it was much less than what it could have been, and I believe things are going very well. I believe things are progressing as expected, and even though there were a few additional incidents in July, I don't believe I would class it as the deadliest month. Maybe the deadliest month in the last few, but definitely not when you look at the conflict as a whole.
WHBY radio, Mike.
Well, the 2nd Battalion, 127th Infantry has been, their headquarters has been at Camp Bucca, and they are running security operations in and around the Camp Bucca and the battle space around it. They're very close to the port of Qasr, which is the only port in Iraq, the only seaport for Iraq. And so they're running security operations around Bucca. They also have some companies who are providing detainee guard force operations in Bucca, and a few of them have transferred up to Taji and are working at Taji.
And actually, I got to meet the two companies that moved from Bucca up to Taji last week, and they're just getting settled in and starting to do their mission full-time now, and their morale is high. Soldiers are doing a good job, and they're settled in there, and things are going very well up there.
WIXK Radio, New Richmond.
Yes, and I'm assuming you were referring to the current award that was awarded to the 1st Battalion, 128th Infantry, headquartered in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I will tell you that We took the approach to the training for this mission slightly differently. We knew a little bit earlier, we knew a year out that we were going to gain this mission. And we focused immediately on the task, the training, the task of the infantry soldier, and I call it the blocking and tackling of a soldier. All the basic tasks, everything that would keep them alive on the battlefield, everything that would cause them to be able to plan and execute missions, to be very organized, and to operate within regiments that we expect that keep soldiers alive and keep soldiers effective on the battlefield. We tailored that together by doing a lot of collective training late in the cycle, just before we deployed. We did a combat training center experience at Camp Blanding, Florida, which took the guys 21 days and very focused, specific training. And then we used our month of February to do our final prep up. So when we hit the mobilization station and got into mission-specific training, they had all of the basic training done. All of the collective tasks were prepared, and we hit the ground running. I believe that these soldiers worked extremely hard. Their families sacrificed a lot of time to get them prepared, and the bulk of the work was every soldier himself believing in what he needed to get done, and they got it done.
Wisconsin Public Radio, Gil Halstead.